The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. I'm Nancy Allspot Jackson.
And I am Shannon Penrod.
Hi, Shannon.
Hi, how are you doing?
Good, how are you doing?
I'm great. We actually are going to jump right into our first guest because we've got her on the line.
Okay, great.
And so Leah Hirschfeld has been joining us on a semi-regular basis. In fact, we have somebody from the research team at CARD join us at least once a month.
Right.
But we were lucky enough 2 weeks ago, I mean, just the way the days fell. So we have Leah Hirschfeld again.
Good.
So we're really excited that she's with us.
We're always excited to
Welcome
hear her
back,
research.
Leah.
Hi, Leah.
Thank you so much. I'm super excited to be back. It's always a highlight for me, so lucky me, I got to be on twice this month.
Well,
Okay,
and it's a
great.
highlight for us too. And you
Yes.
share with us some recent research that you get jazzed about, and then you can explain it to us because Nancy and I frequently need to have it explained to us. Like
Yes,
a lot
I think
of people,
everybody
think.
does. Yeah, it's hard to get to wade through the research.
Absolutely. So, and you give us some of the salient points of things that we might miss just reading about it in the newspaper. So
Right.
we're really thrilled. What are we talking about today?
Great. I'm super excited. So today we're going to be talking about social learning during recess. So there was an article that came out last year in 2018 that was talking about utilizing recess as a time to facilitate social learning and social interaction. And this is cool to me on a lot of fronts. One, for me, remembering back when I used to play at recess, it was always a time that was go, be free. So it's cool to me that folks are thinking about utilizing that time because it is such a good time to focus on social interactions, right? There's so much kid time going on that it's really unstructured, and that can be a really great time to kind of facilitate that. But on the flip side, right, of it being unstructured means that a lot of kids, both typically developing and kids with ASD, have some issues trying to figure out where they fit in that world, right? Do they try to jump in on the soccer field? Do they just walk around the playground? What can they do during that time? So this group was really exciting. They looked at 7 students and they did the entire school year, so about 8 months of intervention. And so what they used was something called the Friend Playground program, which is FRIEND, and it stands for Fostering Relationships in Early Network Development. And they were specifically tracking 2 different types of variables. They were looking at social engagement and social initiations. So social engagement is going to be the child actually engaging with a peer, right? So playing, talking, whatever that might be. And social initiations are going to be that child with ASD actually initiating a conversation or some kind of interaction with a peer. So there was a lot of different ways that this Friends program facilitates those interactions. One, they first added structured activities to the play environment. So they added things like jump rope games, relay activities, board games, things like that. It was during the 20-minute recess period, and they made sure to follow the child's lead. So that's something that you might have heard also in ABA. It's something we try to do as clinicians, is try to follow the child's interests. So if the child's like, man, I love bugs, we're not going to say, that's great, Jimmy, go play kickball. Right, because that's not going to really get them excited or use the intrinsically motivating factor, right? So what this program did was a kid might say, I love bugs, or I love to play board games during indoor recess. And so for the bug kid, they might make some kind of bug treasure hunt, right? So then that child is already excited about that and making that social interaction potentially easier.
Leah?
So they're not also stressed out about the new topic they might be trying to play
Yeah.
with.
Leah, let me ask you something. Who initiated these social interactions? Is this being done by an aide, by a BCBA? Who did this?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So they made sure that there was an adult facilitator. So of the 7 kids, a handful of them had one-on-one aides, some had two-on-one aides, and I think one kid had no aide. But they always made sure that either some kind of researcher who was, or behavioral therapist or BCBA, someone was there facilitating these interactions as well and providing prompts and supports. So it wasn't like they just dropped the kids and were like, okay, bye. They were much more like, okay, Tommy, why don't we go to the soccer field? And when necessary, right, you don't want to be overbearing, but when necessary, they would say, oh, why don't you do X? Or, hey, that was a great way you passed the ball, or something like that. That's a great question.
Okay.
Yeah, so they facilitated child interactions. And the other way, too, that they did this was they would have a researcher potentially set up a setting where the child with ASD would have to ask the peer for materials or something like that. So what that looked like was, for example, they might be doing an egg relay race, right? And so the researcher would specifically give all the materials to the peer so that the child with ASD would have to do some kind of interaction and would have to say, hey, can I do X, or can I have Y, or can my turn be next, or something like that, because all the materials were with the peer. So what did they find from this? So they did find across all participants that there was an increase in social engagement. So social engagement was, again, when the children were interacting with each other, right? So they did find across all participants there was an increase in child engagement, which is really cool. That's really exciting, especially because this is pretty minimal support, right, that they're giving these kids. They're giving them structured play activities. They're giving light prompts when appropriate. It's mostly that they're having an adult there that can kind of facilitate these interactions. But it wasn't crazy. It wasn't over the top or anything like that. So they did see that from baseline, there was an increase in social engagement across all of the participants. In some of the participants, they found some increase in social interactions. One of the reasons they might not have seen it across all participants, the researchers argue, is because some of the activities were more inclined to have social initiation. So again, that's when you went up to someone and specifically said, hey, can I have a turn? Or, hey, will you let me play with you, right? And that's hard kind of regardless of anything. But some activities, like, for example, that egg race where they gave all of the materials to the peer, that will encourage more child initiations, because if you don't initiate, you're not going to play, you're not going to do anything, than potentially like a game of soccer, where you might just run up and down the field and wait for someone to pass you a ball. And then the cool thing, too, that at least to me makes a lot of sense, is that they saw with the typically developing peers, they saw that the children had more stable lines of high engagement when there was a adult facilitator around. So what that kind of potentially suggests is that not only was having an adult facilitator around really useful to the kids with ASD, but it was also useful to the kids that were typically developing. And that makes sense, right? Because it's hard to kind of hang out at recess and not have a game to play, or walk into a room that you don't know. That's hard for adults. So seeing that also as something that's difficult for typically developing peers, and something that's difficult for children with ASD, but something that's easy, not easy, that's the wrong word, but something that can be facilitated, especially with just some thoughtful planning of, hey, you like bugs, let me make sure that there's a bug relay race going on that you can facilitate with people. Or you like board games, awesome, let's make sure that there's a chess set outside so that you can play that with another peer, right? You don't have to only play on the playground or only play soccer. You can be kind of creative about those outdoor playtime activities during recess. And as an adult, you can also help facilitate those interactions. It doesn't have to just be kids go play. It can be, hey, Johnny, why don't you join? Hey, Sam, why don't you kick the ball to Johnny? And then you can take a step back, kind of watch, see what's going on. And that's not just helpful to the kids with ASD or ADHD or any other diagnosis, but also really helpful to our typically developing kids.
Okay.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
We were saying before we went on the air about the fact that in most schools, when it's time for recess, they give the one-on-one aide their
A
break.
break, right.
That's when their break comes. And a lot of families get really frustrated with that because you were saying, Leah, that's prime time.
Right, for socialization, obviously.
So I'm feeling like the takeaway for this is just one more thing for a parent to take to an IEP, this study in your back pocket about all the things that can happen, reasons why they should have goals for on the playground and a facilitator there to do it. So where can they find the study, Leah?
Yeah, so I was just pulling that up. My other computer closed on me. So it was the Promoting Social Learning at Recess for Children with ASD and Related Social Challenges. That was by Dr. Vincent and their team, and it was published in Behavior Analysis and Practice in 2018.
Okay, it's very recent.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, super recent, very exciting. And again, like any research that we talk about on the show, make sure you check the limitations. There's definitely limitations going on. This is only with 7 kids. But it's still really good information, and it's very good information to say, hey, I know this makes a lot of sense for my aide to go take a break during recess, like that's operationally totally reasonable, but maybe during free time when the kids play puzzles and my kid is really good at that, maybe that's a better time if possible for the aide to take a break, right? And then make sure the aide feels comfortable also during recess. You can facilitate those interactions. You can talk about, hey, my kid loves bugs, whatever it is, let's think about another way that they can play. They don't only have to do the monkey bars, right?
Yeah.
They can be creative about how you engage during recess.
Well, one of the things I discovered just through luck and skills, because I came in with goals from skills. For those of you who hear me talk about skills, this is one of the reasons why I was like, he's not, making friends on the playground. We got to have a goal for that.
Right.
So I went into skills and it gave me an IEP benchmark, and I came to the IEP meeting and I said, here it is during recess. And they said, oh, does he need a recreational aid? And I said, what's that? Like, oh, we're even holding out on those people. And they had an assessment, and then they had the recreational aid come in and do exactly what you've been talking about. And you know what the greatest thing was? That it helped every single kid in the classroom. They all played better. They all had a better time on the playground because nobody was being left out. Nobody didn't understand the rules.
Right.
And everybody, and the teacher was just so grateful. She was like, this has been the greatest thing for this class to have this recreational aid. It was absolutely fabulous.
Great.
So I think we all need to be lobbying for that kind of stuff. And then the aide did get her break because the recreational aide was there and took over.
Right.
And knew what she was doing. It's all good.
Yeah, I had a friend recently who complained that she visited her child's school, and at lunchtime her son was just wandering around with absolutely no direction and no interaction with the other kids. So she called a meeting and an IEP and said, this has got to be prime social time, and they called a card aide in to facilitate.
Wonderful. See, that's awesome. That we can't let that time go, and we need to tell the schools that. And now Leah's given us this wonderful study that shows that it can be done and fairly easily without anybody pulling a muscle.
And just like you said, it's helpful to everyone, it seems like. It is not just our kids with ASD that need this. This is, just think about it. As an adult, it's hard to walk into a party and just start playing, just start talking, right? So it makes sense that this is hard for everyone and that it would help everyone as well, just
this
like you said.
Is good research, which is what we should call this segment. Good research.
Right, good research.
Anyway, thank you so much for being with us. Hopefully we'll see you next month or soon after that. I know sometimes you guys trade out, but we loved having you.
Perfect. Thank you guys so much. I love being on the show. It's always a highlight.
All right, great. Have a great day, Leah.
Bye-bye. So, and next we have our next guest. We're going to take a break, but Chad Hooker from Puzzle Piece Athletics.
Which is based out of where, do you know?
It's up in the Bay Area.
Okay.
So, but I'm telling you, this guy is something else. So, and he's been getting a lot of press, and we wanted to make sure we gave him some too. So, we're going to be back in just a second with Chad to talk about what he's got going on and why it's so super fabulous.
Okay, great.
Stick with us.
Fantastic.
Do you provide care services to someone with autism? Recently, more and more children are being diagnosed with the condition and getting the support they need as awareness grows. But what happens to these children as they grow up? It's estimated that over 500,000 youth with autism will turn 18 in the next decade, and they'll be faced with a very difficult reality. As children with autism grow up, their services start to disappear or become very difficult to access. Things like medical care, mental health counseling, vocational training, and more. All services that are still desperately needed. The loss of support that youth with autism face as they grow up is so severe that it's referred to in the autism community as falling off a cliff. Adults with autism need the same level of support they had as children to avoid falling off the services cliff. Introducing Skills Living, the web-based software designed specifically to help transitioning youth and adults with autism so they can avoid the cliff and instead fly to success. With Skills Living, help your learner with autism develop the skills they need in all the critical areas of adult life, including self-control, planning, and problem-solving, effective communication, performing life skill tasks for independent living, acquiring and maintaining employment or other meaningful activities, developing and maintaining social skills and relationships, accessing transportation and public services, and being safe. Skills Living includes a comprehensive assessment, a data collection mobile app, behavior intervention plan builder, and automatic progress reporting. It also provides a complete curriculum addressing 16 key areas spanning the entire range of functioning adulthood. Skills Living is easy to use and can be implemented by schools, parents, and autism service providers. Call or click today for your free demo and see how Skills Living can help your learner with autism avoid the cliff and instead reach their fullest potential. Skills Living. Wish, learn, become.
I got to do the U-turn around the thing? Okay. So, Kelby, do I want the north entry or the south, or does it matter? Okay. Are we doing curbside bag check? Which way, Kelby? Left? Yeah. Okay. Kelby, can I go through the T? Yeah, I have a toll tag.
Then you go through the T.
Okay. What do you do that, like, you could just spend 2 hours doing and have it suck all your time?
Oh, I like to look up interesting research articles on animal behavior. Found a really interesting European papers on how wolves are different than dogs that I read last week that were very, very interesting.
Very cool.
Because I've always talked about a brain can be more social emotional or a brain can be more cognitive.
Yeah.
And the wolf turns out to be more cognitive, and we've bred the dog to be more social emotional.
How fascinating is that?
Very, very interesting. The wolves are very good at watching another wolf solve a problem.
We were talking a little bit about television before, and I cannot believe that what you said to me, what you like to watch on television.
Star Trek. I was a Star Trek fan when I was a teenager. I liked the Star Trek Next Generation. I was watching that when I was working on my PhD in the 80s.
And so what?
Total Star Trek fan.
What's your favorite series, and what's your favorite character, and what's your favorite
Mr.
episode?
Spock was my favorite character.
Love it. And what's favorite episode? This guy is
Let
gonna
me
hate
see.
me.
There's a lot of good. My favorite Star Trek movie was the one with the whales.
Yes.
Yep, I really
mine
liked
too.
that Star Trek movie.
And so sad that we lost Leonard Nimoy this year.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that you like to watch television. Do you like to go to the movies too?
Oh yes, I went and saw Gravity. There's certain movies that have to be seen in a theater, like
Yeah.
Gravity and Avatar.
Yes.
I wanted to see Inside Out in the theater. I really liked that movie.
What did you think of that?
I liked it. I think about how the emotions interact.
I gotta be honest, I had said after that I thought that it was gonna be a great tool for people to show kids on the autism spectrum about perspective taking,
Yeah.
about what it's like in other people's heads.
Well, no, it's more like how the emotions inside your own head sort of conflict with each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I love the Wizard of Oz, and I love the idea of the ruby slippers. She had the way back home. She just didn't know she had it.
Yeah.
You see, and I think that's a metaphor for a lot of things. A lot of people have the ruby slippers, but they don't know they have them. They don't know they have the key that can open up the door to a lot of really great stuff.
So what would you say was your ruby slipper?
Well, I had, when some opportunities came up, like when I designed those dip vats, that was a major breakthrough for my business. And when the head of the feed yard came up to me and asked me if I'd do it, I said, give me 3 weeks. You know, a lot of people would have been too scared to walk through the door. Now, this is pre-internet, and I knew it would take me 3 weeks to get some of the information I needed, especially on concrete reinforcement, to design the dip vats.
But you did it.
I did it. I was on the phone the next day to the USDA to get the drawings on the concrete reinforcement.
Wow. So I want to journey back to childhood for just a second and talk about friends, because a lot of times people ask about friends. Who was your best friend?
When I was in elementary school, one of my best friends was a girl named Eleanor. And she was the first girl in elementary school to get to take wood shop instead of cooking. And I was the second girl in our school to get to take wood shop. So we like to make stuff. It's all about making stuff. And I had good friends in high school. Even though I got bullied and teased, I got friends who shared interests. Riding horses together, doing electronics together, doing model rockets together, doing stuff together with other students.
So you found, like your mom says about, you found your tribe.
Yeah, and you've got to get them in doing things with other people.
And you did a lot of theater, and did you sing as a kid?
Yeah, I did. One of the problems I was singing is I couldn't synchronize my rhythm with somebody else's rhythm.
Do you still have a hard time doing that?
I still have a hard time doing that.
Because we were going to ask you if you wanted to sing something in the car with us.
Well, I think maybe we'll skip that.
Great question. But the one question people always ask us is they want to know if you've ever been in love.
No, never have.
And you don't feel like you're missing anything.
I've seen so much turmoil in so many marriages that I haven't really seen a situation that would be a good model.
And yet you gave me really good marriage advice.
Because I'm a good problem solver. You have to take the problem and cut it down. And in engineering, you have to find the root cause of a problem.
What do you think is your secret to your success as a teacher?
Well, presenting things really clearly.
Yeah.
That's really important. Making things interesting.
Yeah.
I think it's also important that it's something in a class that a student can take home and use. I teach a class in cattle behavior and handling, and I've got a lot of students that are pre-vet that are going to go in the dog and cat. Probably won't be handling any cattle. But I said, you want to design this corral system because it's visual problem solving. You have to figure out how to do it. It's not a cookbook. And then I have my internet project where they can pick out anything in animal behavior, and I make them dig into a narrow subject that I have to approve, because I want them digging into Google Scholar and PubMed, Science Direct, and the other databases. They got to learn how to find stuff
We're
online.
here, Let's
and
Talk
find about
Autism.
it. 2/3 of the students are not very good at that. How about this? Make Magazine. This is the kind of thing that a lot of kids on the spectrum need to be doing. The cool stuff in here. Really
Make
interesting.
Magazine is going to love that you
Make
did that.
Magazine. That's a wonderful magazine. And okay, yes, and they're resurrecting old satellites from mission control and an abandoned McDonald's.
Love
That's
it.
the kind of stuff I really like. These are the kind of magazines we need to get into school. Make Magazine,
Absolutely.
Business Week, Science, Nature, Wired. We got to show kids out there. There's all kinds of super interesting
Yeah.
stuff out there.
Open
But
up
if
the
they don't
brains.
see it, then they don't know about it.
Here, the
I
other
like
night.
to geek out on construction
Oh,
sites.
yeah.
I like to salivate over all the equipment they've got that we didn't have, like really cool man lifts and, you know, nice scaffolding. We didn't have any of that stuff.
You didn't.
No, we didn't.
What did you guys have? A
Horrid,
compass?
horrid ladders that were really dangerous is what we had.
I'm gonna pull up right here. Okay. We're gonna get your stuff out. Yep. Put your back up. Welcome
Okay.
back. We're here, Let's
Yeah.
Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy.
Right.
And Nancy and I are very excited because our next guest is joining us via Skype, and I'm a big fan, and we're just getting him introduced to Nancy, but believe
Right.
me, you're going to be a big fan
Okay.
too. So Chad Hooker is coming to us from Puzzle Piece Athletics. Now, so after people are on the show, sometimes we get to be friends with them. And
Right.
we've had a wonderful guest on the show a couple of times. Her name is Swathi, and she's an amazing woman. And she's shown us her daughter's jewelry series,
Siri.
Designs by Siri.
Designs by Siri.
Beautiful, beautiful jewelry. And so she is the one who started turning me on to Chad and what he's got going on at Puzzle Piece Athletics. And I've been watching videos of Chad, and I just wish Chad lived locally because I need Chad.
Where did you see these videos?
So there's a lot of videos on Facebook of Chad working out with individuals who are on the autism spectrum, and it is one of the most inspirational things I've seen. Like, you know, honestly, you would think, because a lot of times our kids have issues with compliance, he's got some special mojo that he makes it fun and exciting. He gets these kids doing incredible things. And there's one of his clients in particular that I'm just watching him resculpt her body with his workout.
Really?
But it's more than that. It's about reducing anxiety. Anyway, we need to
Yeah,
get Chad
of course.
in. Chad, I'm a huge fan.
Chad, welcome
Thank
to
you
the
so
show.
much. Thank you, guys.
Welcome to the
Thank
show.
you.
Tell us about how, well, Puzzle Piece obviously is the autism logo that you use in your business. So you designed it particularly for individuals on the autism spectrum?
Yeah, so I took the puzzle piece because it's well known in the neurodiverse community. I took that and I had made it so it looked more fitness like. So when you look at the logo, you're like, okay, like this looks like it has something to do with autism and fitness, right? So it's got the P's on the side with the barbell and all that good stuff. So
Right.
yeah,
we're
there it
showing
is, the
it right
puzzle
there.
piece athletics. So I had someone help me with this, and she did an absolutely amazing
it's a
job
great
with this, 'cause
logo.
you can look at it and you know exactly what it's for.
What it is. Well, tell us how your interest in autism and athletics started and how this whole idea began.
That's actually a really good thing to talk about. I was running CrossFit kids classes, and I've been doing this for a very long time, and I was teaching a class, and this lady came up to me and she was like, "Hey, like, do you do personal sessions?" And I was like, "Yeah, like, of course. What can I help you with?" And she was like, "Okay, you know, it's not really for me, it's for my friend, and it's not for her, it's for her child. And he's on the spectrum." And I was like, "Okay, like, sure, no problem. Like, let's get him in and let's see what we can do. You know, we'll see how things go." And then from there, it was just like seeing what happened and the changes in this young man was just it was crazy. The mom would come back to me in tears and all this stuff, and just to see from where he started with me to where we got was just crazy. Just the improvements that this young man was making was just mind blowing.
And you
right?
had to have
think
known
that
then,
fitness
Chad,
could
that
help
you were
somebody
on to
that much.
something. You had to have
I'm
known
sorry,
then.
what?
You had to have known then that you were on to something.
Yes.
And is that when you decided to make a whole different division of your gym that would just take care of this?
Yeah, you know, I did it out of the kindness of my heart, you know, and still do, right? That's what this business was made for, to help the neurodiverse community. But I went a long time just taking taking kids, just helping them, and I did it for free in the beginning, just to work with these kids, to help them out, to get them more confident. And it took me a while to actually get this thought in my head, like, wow, like I can really, really, really help this neurodiverse community and really get things going. But no, I just took on some clients here and there, and then it just like snowball effect into Puzzle Piece Athletics, which had a lot to do with my wife being like, you're really, really good at this. You should really start to make this your passion and do something with this,
What kind of changes did you see in the kids that you were working with?
Oh my gosh, so many. Confidence, number one. I've had kids come into the gym that number one won't even go inside. I had one that kind of walked up to the gate and then looked at me and he was like, I quit, and just turned around and walked away. And it was like, oh no, like, you can't quit on the teammate, right? And like it took me a while to hone in on him and to learn his cues and just to become friends with him, to get him comfortable with myself. And then I think it took about a month and a half, maybe a little bit more, just to get him inside the gym. And now he just walks in like it's his own place and tells people jokes and is just really grown. Just getting to know these kids and to making them feel comfortable and to making them feel like they can do these things, and you just push past that barrier. And once you break that barrier, you're good.
Right.
But it's not as if you had any training, or correct me if I'm wrong, in working with these individuals. I think there's some people, I mean, we know this, we see a really amazing therapists that they get good training, but there's also there's just something special about them.
There's an it factor.
That locks in with these kids, and the kids feel it too. You see the same thing, and please don't take this the wrong way, but you see the same thing with animals. Like to see a person on the spectrum walk up to a horse and there is immediate respect.
Yes,
they get each other.
Yeah, the animals pick up on their senses and all that stuff, and like that's why they're service dogs, and that's why there's all that stuff. Like if you have a child with seizures, the animal can predict those seizures and stuff like that. So it's really it's that connection. There has to be a connection, and with animals and people on the spectrum, there's an immediate connection, and for some reason, like I don't know what it is.
Are you part horse, Chad? I want to know. Are you part horse?
Man, I might be. I wish I was as fast as you.
You know what it is, though? I think there are some people who are just themselves, and they're comfortable in their skin, and they're honest. Like, I think our kids have a BS meter.
Right.
That they can smell when somebody's trying to do something that they aren't good at. And I've watched videos with you, Chad, and it's just sort of miraculous. You watch him working out with an individual on the spectrum, and they are in it with him, and he's in it with them, and he does something and then they do it, and I'm just impressed, Chad.
It's and I always say, like, you have to, it's not like the first time that these kids or these adults come into the gym, like I'm like honed in on it. Like it takes me a minute to figure out how they tick. Okay. Like what cues can I use with them that's going to work? Like, how am I going to keep this child or this adult motivated? And, I try and build on everything that I've learned, and I use the cues that I've learned, and I kind of stick with them. So it's been a lot of time just like hands-on with this amazing community, like really, really learning on how they work and how to keep them motivated. So it's taken a lot, but it's really starting to pay off. And now I just, like you said, like I'm comfortable enough in my skin to be fine with them. Like I'm not afraid of failing. I'm not afraid of them getting hurt. I don't baby them. Like, we're in it to win it. Like, I'm going to be there for you, and I want to build that connection with them immediately. So it starts as soon as you come in with myself or my amazing coaches. Like, it starts with that connection. We build on that connection until you're comfortable with us, and then that's it.
I want to go over some of the things that you have on your flyer. It says we focus on improving motor skills, muscle strength, and joint mobility, building balance, coordination, and endurance, improving behavioral and cognitive functioning, and reducing maladaptive and increasing on-task behaviors. That's a pretty epic list there, right? It's like hitting the hit parade. But I know watching the videos, I'm seeing amazing things. The parents have got to just love you, Chad. Yes?
I've been getting a lot of really good feedback. I haven't from all the parents. It's like this is amazing. Like I've had adults come in and their parents are like, okay, like 21, 22 adults. Like their parents are like, we've been trying to get our child to just broad jump, just stand and jump far, or stand and jump in the air for 20 years, and we've never been able to do it. But in the time you've been working with him, you've gotten this. And like, not one negative comment about this. It's just been so overwhelming, and everybody really seems to really enjoy it. And the program's proven to work. I've gotten so much out of these athletes, and you can't really deny it.
So tell us about, because obviously, some people are lucky enough that they live close enough that they can do your services. Tell us how they would access you if they live local.
So if you live local, you can email me.
Well, tell us where local is. I don't think we've even established.
So local Bay Area.
In
I'm
California.
East Bay, Dublin, California. So I'm like 30 minutes outside of San Francisco. I'm like 20 minutes away from Oakland, Hayward, Discovery Bay, Palo Alto. So anywhere in like the hour and a half range, people are coming.
Okay. And what website can they go to?
They can go to my website, which is www.puzzlepieceathletics.com, or you can go to the Instagram, which is just @puzzlepieceathletics, and you can shoot me a direct message, or Facebook, which is also Puzzle Piece Athletics.
We just need to figure out how to clone you. Have you thought about franchising?
Man, that would be so awesome.
Right. Have you thought about franchising?
Definitely, yeah.
Okay.
I want to. I've been contacted from so many places. It's very overwhelming. People like, we want your service here. Like, when are you gonna branch out? Like, how do we become part of this? Can you train us to work with kids on the spectrum and all this stuff? So I'm really trying to branch out and to help everybody. I've been contacted a lot from Santa Barbara and LA and Ventura and Oxnard and like all those places.
Yes.
Is it a program you could do a blueprint for and other therapists could initiate it?
Yeah, sure. Like I'm working right now on the PPA method. So as soon as I get everything dialed in, and I can start running seminars and teaching people like how I work with these neurodiverse people and how I keep them motivated, and the kind of movements I use through functional fitness with them, and what works and what doesn't work kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, I'm sensing a DVD.
Okay.
Because I want to do it with. I'm watching you with some of your clients, and I'm like, I want to do it with them. I can see parents doing this with their kids on DVD.
Oh, 100%. And like, I think why my program works so well is sometimes because if a parent takes their child to the gym, like even a neurotypical kid is like, you're crazy, Dad. Like, I'm not going to work out with you, right? Like, I want to do this on my own. But it's the same thing for a neurodiverse child or an adult. Like, they don't want to be next to their parent all the time, and they want somebody else to take them through, and again, build that connection with somebody else. So I feel like that's why my program works so well, is because they're kind of thrown into the fire around all these people that are working out, with them, and they want to do it too. And when they have someone that can lead them and show them the movements the correct way, that's just like, they love it.
Yeah, you can see that on their faces. So, Chad, I think there's something magic about you, and I'm glad that your wife recognizes it and keeps pushing you in that direction. She sounds like a smart lady and a keeper.
She's way smarter than me.
Well, thank you for the work that you do with our kids and for sharing that unique gift that you have with our kids, because I think it's amazing.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Tell us the website one more time before we go.
www.puzzlepieceathletics.com. And again, Instagram is just Puzzle Piece Athletics, and Facebook is Puzzle Piece Athletics.
Thank you so
Okay,
much,
good luck
Chad.
to you.
Thank you, ladies. It was very nice meeting you.
You too.
Nice meeting
Bye-bye.
you too.
Bye. Have a good one.
You too.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to take a short break and then we're going to be back to cover in the news. We've
Yeah.
got some pretty interesting in the news. Stick with us.
Hi guys, welcome back. For the month of June, I figured we'd do some cool things that are kind of like summer camp activities. So the activity we're doing this month is making a shoebox guitar. The materials you'll be needing are an old shoebox, a paper towel roll, a pencil, a stencil, rubber bands, a crayon, and an X-Acto blade, which only the adults will be using. So first things first, I have a shoebox and I painted it just so it's a little bit more interesting. This is an opportunity for your kids to decorate however they choose. You can keep it simple or do some stripes with paint, or you can always use, stickers or tape instead of paint to decorate it. All right, now that I have this, I'm gonna take my stencil, place it on top of the shoebox, and I'm gonna draw a circle somewhere in the center, okay? So now that I have that, I'm gonna take my X-Acto blade, which is why this is for the adults, and cut out the circle. Next, we're gonna cut out a smaller circle at the top of our shoebox guitar. The reason we're going to do this is so that we have a place to insert our paper towel roll, aka the stem of the guitar. And I'm gonna grab my paper towel roll and I'm gonna trace the outside of this so I can cut a hole on the top of this too to stick this in so it just looks a lot more realistic. It won't be usable, but it'll look pretty cool. Now that it's been traced, now I'm gonna cut it out with the X-Acto blade. And again, this is something that only the adults should be doing. Now that I have both of the holes cut in this, I'm gonna take my guitar strings and place them on. As you can see, it's missing one thing. It's stem. So now I'm gonna put this in the hole we just cut out. All right, the last thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my crayon and put this in. And then after that, your guitar is totally done and you're ready to rock out with your kids. And if you're really cool, you'll make another one so you and your child can play together while doing socio-dramatic play, or work on imitation skills where you play a pattern on here and then they try to repeat it. I hope you and your child had lots of fun making this. And until next time, rock on.
Can you see me flying by your side?
And welcome back.
We've got some news to cover. I just was going to show Nancy some videos. You got to check out some of these. She was asking me like, what kinds of things does Chad do? And it's all that CrossFit kind of stuff, like, picking up 2 things to drag 2 tires across the room.
Right.
Like all these crazy things that those CrossFit people do that are very functional fitness kind of stuff. Or, I was watching one, I think last night, where he was having the client just do not a push-up, right? But doing a plank, but with your butt up, sort of like a downward dog kind of thing.
Right.
And staying in that position for a while, but he does it with them. And he'll do things where they have to cross the room with him and they have to be punching his head. Like everything, he's right there involved and doing, and it's all a workout. Like you can see that it's a workout and that it's a tough workout, but the individuals are just happy to do it with him. That you go, it's just him. He's
has
the big
that way of-
reinforcer. Yeah.
Keeping them, getting them involved.
I think he himself is very reinforcing because he's like there with them and going, you're doing such a great job, but also, and he rewards them afterwards. But like he said, he doesn't baby them.
Right.
He just turns around and he's like, okay, now we're going to do this. And he keeps them engaged, and it's not like there's downtime. He's just special, that Chad. I'm just saying.
Okay.
He's special. Anyway, so we have a couple of news stories.
Right. This is an interesting one. For the first time, scientists have found a molecular connection between a common food preservative, neuronal disruption, and autism spectrum disorder.
Yeah.
The findings suggest that there may be a link between the consumption of processed foods during pregnancy and the rise of autism.
Yeah. Well, you know what's interesting is that CARD has been involved in a study for a while now that well, first of all, we had somebody come on and talk the other day about how CARD is phenotyping autism, and that they've been able to find, these 16 different subgroups. But now, aside from that, that's just looking at behavior, right? CARD is also looking at phenotyping kids from a bio.
Explain phenotyping for those that don't know.
Phenotyping is figuring out, because there's different types of autism.
Right.
So it's not just one type of autism. So they've been able to separate it into 16 distinct groups of kids who have distinct features about their behavior and how they learn. And the trajectory of how they learn, why some kids learn faster than other kids, but not only that, but figuring out if you do this lesson, and this lesson, that group of kids will learn faster. So just looking at it from a behavior standpoint, CARD has just published the biggest study of the biggest sample of kids to be able to do this. And it's very exciting. It's cutting edge, change your life kind of stuff. But also, CARD has been working for a while on this other study to look at a child's biome and to see, and I call it the poop study. We covered it extensively on the show when they were in the intensive part of it, looking for people to participate. And they took samples of kids' poop and urine to track, and they took kids who were being treated for autism that had a diagnosis. They took their neurotypical peers, and then they took kids that don't have another sibling who's on the spectrum, and they were looking at all of their poop, and they can cluster them together by poop also. And one of the defining factors is mentioned here. They're talking about the Clostridium cluster, that there is this Clostridium, and we have to get somebody on here to do a more extensive thing on it, but you can see a difference in the level of Clostridium in kids with autism's poop. And they're bringing it up here in this study again with this food preservative. To me, this is not a coincidence.
Right.
And if there's a way that we always talk on the show about eating healthy and having our kids eat healthy. And if that's a contributory factor to having that difference in the poop, I just think that's pretty intense. And this is the first time. And I love that it's in medical news today,
Right.
So it's pretty mainstream. But I feel like when they came out with the first study in 2011 saying, look, there is definitely a factor here of the pesticides and ADD behavior, the lack of focus, and that was pretty mainstream too, and everybody just sort of shoved that under the rug, and now there's been tons of other studies about that, and it's just starting to peek its head back up again 7 years later.
Wow.
So I just want for us, the autism community, to get our heads on straight about some of the things that our kids are eating, and that it does play a role, and that we have some control over that. And getting your kid on a clean diet that's as organic as you can stand to be, and paying particular attention to the clean 15 and the dirty dozen, setting yourself the thing of, well, we're not, even in a restaurant, we're not going to eat the dirty dozen if it's not organic. I think that makes a humongous difference in the world. But then also cutting out some of these food preservatives and artificial colors and flavors. I know there are people who are like, but I just don't see
It's too hard.
Well,
A lot of parents say it's just too hard.
I mean, you just don't buy it.
Right. And you wouldn't be saying this if you had diabetes or another, most likely you would be abiding by these rules of not eating certain things.
I mean, it's just life, right? It's just life that there are some things that some people can handle and other people's can't. Although I would argue that I don't think that any kids can handle this. I really don't. And I have said this before on the show that one of my most favorite, least favorite, things is to go to a birthday party with a bunch of kids, and they bring out the cake that's got all those colors.
First there's the pizza.
Right. That's, one thing. But then they bring out the cake that's got so many colors on it, right? I remember distinctly going to a Halloween party, and they brought out it was a black cat cake. And she had a red tongue, but it was a black frosted cake. How many chemicals do you think it took to get that frosting black?
Right.
And it was black. And the kids all ate it, and they were smearing it all over their faces, and they were laughing and taking pictures of the kids sticking out their tongues and having their tongues be black and purple and all these different things. And my kid was over there eating his gluten-free cracker, right? And feeling like he was missing all the fun. But 15 minutes later, there wasn't a kid at that party that wasn't melting down.
Right.
Not a single kid, and they were all neurotypical. You know, and I remembered saying, do you think maybe, and people were like, oh, it's the sugar, it's not the colors. And I was like, okay, well, let's talk about the sugar then.
Right.
Why are we giving them this much sugar?
Right.
Well, they're kids. And they were screaming and pulling their hair and pulling other people's hair. And I was like, yeah, I see that. They're kids. Is this a normal part of childhood? Anyway, can I say one more thing about this? Just recently, we were at an event. It was the American Icon Awards, and Joanne Laura from Autism Movement Therapy and Autism Works Now, her charity was one of the beneficiaries.
Right.
And one of the other beneficiaries was St. Jude.
Okay.
So Marlo Thomas and Phil Donahue were there.
Right.
And Marlo spoke, and that was all great and everything. But I had a brief little moment with Phil Donahue as he was walking past me, and he was looking at me like, do I know you? And because we have the same hair. And so he was like, you seem like a relative of mine or whatever. And I just, you know, I sort of waved at him, and he was like, hi. And just nice, not at all icky, right? And I said, I just love you. And he was like, oh, thank you. And we had this nice little moment. And if I'd had more time, I would have said the reason why I love Phil Donahue is because I still refer parents when they say that they don't believe in diet and all this other stuff and how can diet change behavior. Phil Donahue in 1984, I believe, did an entire show on milk allergies.
Oh, really?
And he had the kids come.
I'm so surprised.
In 1984, folks, it's on YouTube. And they had the kids there, and the kids were all fine.
Right.
And these were kids who had already been identified not as being allergic to milk, but being reactive to milk. And it's horrible. You would never get away with it now, but they gave the kids milk on the set when the commercial came back, and the kids were
and it exhibited in behavior.
Mess.
Right.
They were sniveling and crying and hysterical. And he was like, ladies and gentlemen, this is what milk can do to a child. Not all children, but to some children. And I've never seen that anywhere since or before. So God bless Phil Donahue. Because I say to people, just look it up.
Right.
Watch the video, because he did it in real time.
Right.
He's like, we're here, they're fine, milk, they're not fine.
So, I mean, I can do that with my son. He's been on GFCF, gluten-free, casein-free, since he was about 3 years old. And if you were to give him a lunch of fried chicken with a big glass of milk or a milkshake, you would see within an hour an entirely different child.
Well, and for my son, it's much more physical now because he's still, but I was just saying the other day that we did a milk challenge, and he was in so much pain in his stomach. He was like, I don't ever want to eat it again. So there you go. Anyway, we had another study another article that I wanted to address, because I think this is a really
this is a really cool story. Yeah, really cool idea.
I was because so many of you are out there who have girls on the autism spectrum, and you feel left out. This is a story just for you.
Yes, it's called Felicity House. It's a New York social club for women with autism.
Can we we need a button that we can push here that goes, whoa, angels singing when things are good, right?
Right. It's in the Manhattan's upscale Flatiron district.
Love it.
And it says it might look like a boutique hotel or even the Wing, the Instagram-worthy women's co-working spaces. But it's got a fireplace, plush rugs, high ceiling with crown molding, neutral tones, flowers. But they go on to say it isn't a hotel, it's a social club for women with autism, and its rooms and programming were all designed with input from its more than 150 members.
I love that they have Legos that are there that you can play with fidget toys, or they have Legos, and that it's this really poo-poo shishi place for women to go. It's free of charge. And it's got quiet spaces, but it also has Legos. I just love that they're being so true to themselves and have created this place. And this does not exist for men on the spectrum.
No.
So I love that women have forged the way first and done this first. I think it's really incredible. And if you want to know more about it, I really also want to recommend that there are some great organizations for women, and one of them, the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network, they've been involved and on the advisory board. I just think that this is really a remarkable thing.
Right.
And the article that we found was on Vox.com. If you want to know more about it, look up Felicity House and you can find out more about it. But what a great field trip if you are going to the New York City area to take your daughter and go. And by the way, since we're talking about women on the autism spectrum, I had a great conversation with a mom just the other day who was talking about how there aren't enough resources and there are not enough role models. And I was like, oh, but wait a second. There's a really great one right now. We had her on the show 2 weeks ago. Rachel Barcelona is vying for Miss Florida, and today starts the live coverage. So you can go online today and watch Rachel Barcelona, I'm going to tear up here, be the first woman on the autism spectrum to vie for Miss Florida.
Really?
And I think there's even a way that you can vote for her for certain awards and things like that. But the pictures we had her on 2 weeks ago, and she was talking about it, and she was just so positive, and I was like, so when you win Miss Florida? And she said, oh, you know what? Nobody wins their first time. That just doesn't happen. She said, so, I just want to go and do my best. I thought, what a wonderful way to be, right? And she was very, casual with us. She's, a young woman and wasn't all done up to be on the show. And now I've been looking at the pictures of her. She had to do her interview either earlier today or yesterday, and she's all, pageant done. But she looks stunning, just stunning. And so take a look. And for those of you who have young girls or teenagers or young women on the autism spectrum, boy, she's a great role model. She's about as down to earth as you can be, and so sweet and kind and nice. I've been at social functions with her too and met her in person long before we had her on the show, and she, very nice young woman. And her mother's super sweet too. So good role model.
Okay, great.
Right. And also happens to be beautiful and well-spoken.
Right.
So there we go. So we wish you luck, Rachel. Good luck.
Good luck, Rachel.
On Miss Florida. There's another young woman who is vying for, I think it's West Virginia, Miss West Virginia. So we'll look forward to see what happens with all of that.
Right.
It's good scholarships. I mean, they've changed those pageants. And of course, you always have to have a platform. And her platform is people of diverse abilities. So love that.
Okay, great.
Gotta love that. All right, we are just about out of time.
We're about out of time.
But I want to thank you for being here, and I want to thank all of our guests, and anything else that we have to cover, because I think we have 2 minutes.
Okay, do you have anything coming up on the show on Monday it would be? You probably don't remember.
Of course, yes. We have a scientist on Monday. He's from Rensselaer Institute of Technology. Is that what it is? And he's going to be talking about some pretty interesting stuff with us.
Okay.
So I cannot remember what the study is, but I remember going, oh my gosh, this is pretty exciting. And then we have Bonnie Yates on Monday as well. Right. Bonnie's a regular on Mondays when we can get her. It had been IEP season for a while, so it was sort of catch as catch can. And Bonnie's about to be a grandma. Her daughter is due any day now.
Great.
Which is a very exciting thing. So, I say that so that we'll have a little asterisk there. That we'll say that we're having Bonnie, but it's entirely possible.
Okay.
And we have 1 more minute, so I'm gonna say this. I was trying to decide whether or not to announce this or not, but I like to be upfront with everybody.
Right.
So earlier this week, I was diagnosed with diabetes, and you know, the kind where you have to be on insulin. And
Right.
It's really kicking my keister.
Yes, it is.
But I've not been feeling well for a while. I think that you know that.
I know
you guys
that.
have seen
and I'm
that.
glad
and-
that you finally found the answer to what
Gosh,
this is.
well, I will look
issue's been.
forward to when I feel better.
And I'm sure
that's
you
the,
will.
That's the thing that I'm focusing on right now. But for anybody who's out there who's also struggling with this, you know, please feel free to, you know, we can struggle through this together,
Right.
But I want to say this because it just so happened that I had a doctor's appointment that was already scheduled. I hadn't made a doctor's appointment to go and talk to it. I think that our healthcare is fundamentally not great anymore. It hasn't been for a long time, but it makes it really hard to get in and get an appointment. And often, if you make an appointment for something, if you have something pressing that's going on, you end up going to urgent care, right? And then you don't get any continuation of care afterwards, which is a bit of a drag. And I feel I switched my healthcare in January so that I would be with a different group. But I'm used to doing things the old way. So I had an appointment and I was going to cancel it, to be honest. And then I was like, well, you know, I could just go in. And I woke up and I felt horrible. And I've been not feeling great progressively for the last couple of months, but I felt really bad. I've been feeling tired, like really tired. I'm hungry all the time. I've gained so much weight and I just I've been having a hard time regulating temperature and felt shaky and all these other things and had dry mouth, all these things that I now understand to be high blood sugar.
Okay.
And did not understand that before. I had gestational diabetes and was told that, you know, something like 88% of people become diabetic later on, that you're, for whatever reason, your pancreas just says, at some point, I just can't do this. So I'm putting this out there because maybe there's somebody else that needs to hear this. I wasn't going to go to the doctor, except that I had that appointment, and my sugar was almost 400.
Wow.
Which is like
Extremely
you
high.
feel
Right.
bad.
Right.
You feel bad. So if you're not feeling well, get yourself to the doctor.
Right. You can find
and-
out answers, and it's good to have the answers, no
Yes.
matter what they may be, and then you
It
can deal
is.
with the situation.
Exactly. And that's the thing that I've said to my husband. I've decided to look at this as a positive thing because if I can start to feel better. At my age, I started going, well, that's just how you feel. And everybody keeps telling me, no.
No, you don't have to feel bad.
You don't have to feel
No, there's no
tired all
reason.
the time. So I'm putting it out there and hopefully.
All right.
you
Well,
know,
Shannon,
somebody-
thanks for sharing that with
Thank
us
you.
and being so open about it. We
Well-
wish you the best in your
Thank you.
recovery efforts. And I mean, I don't know what they
Hopefully-
call it, whether they call it recovery from diabetes, because you treat it.
Management.
Management, okay.
Yes. But hopefully I'll start to feel better and then
Okay,
I'll
good.
be able to tell those stories.
Good.
Because I still feel a little.
Right.
Anyway, all right, onward and upward.
Okay.
But we will be back on Monday. I'm speaking to a bunch of folks tomorrow in Texas, and so if you are in Texas, and in particular, they're card folks, card parents. If you are a Texas card parent, make sure that because I'm having a wonderful opportunity to speak to as many card Texas parents as I can tomorrow morning. So I hope to see you there. Otherwise, I will be back on Monday.
Great.
Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me.
And yourselves a hug from me. Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye.